What is up, everybody? It's your boy Norn Radd 89 here, bringing you another video today, continuing our John Carpenter review series, as we're going to be talking about John Carpenter's The Fog, one of his all-time classics that, definitely rings true to a lot of horror fans today. You're going to hear my thoughts on this film, positives, negatives, the rating, you know the jazz. So let's get into this. Roll it. Yes, so John Carpenter's The Fog is a classic ghost story. It falls in the line of that kind of subgenre, so it's a little different from his very first film. We all know John Carpenter's Halloween, which is more of a simple slasher type film. This is more of a laid back kind of ghost story film. It's all about atmosphere, it's all about mood, as our place is the seaside shores of Antonio Bay, which 100 years prior, a ship ended up crashing there, and their vengeful spirits come back 100 years later to take vengeance on the town during an eerie fog that creeps into the town. And I think it's really cool. This one is filled with a lot of atmosphere. Like I said, a great score, a fantastic cast, and we have Janet Leigh in here from Psycho, Jamie Lee Curtis, Tom Atkins, Adrienne Barbeau. So a lot of the usual players that you see in a lot of John Carpenter films. But yeah, this film is an instant classic for a lot of people. I've talked to a lot of friends and a lot of fans of this film. They like this one. A lot of people like this one better than John Carpenter's Halloween. I don't. That's not me. Like, I don't fall into that camp, but this is still a really good film and something that's totally different from his previous film. Like the fact that this one, like even the beginning, just the campfire telling of the story of the town or the shore in this one, I think it's just that's how it plays out. This film feels like some simple story that you just sat down with your friends around a fire and you started talking about and discussing. Like I said, it's all about that mood and atmosphere that John Carpenter's trying to create. And also this one has, like I said, some really cool practical effects as well too, when it comes to like the fog and how they created it and how it looks. And a lot of those stuff you learn when you watch the special features on this 4K, but it's really cool the effort that they put into making the fog, like John Carpenter and Tommy Lee Wallace, and how they created it, and also the ghosts when they come in. It's a very simple thing. It's not something that's out of this world like a xenomorph design, but like I said, it's a very simple eerie design for the spirits and how they're standing in the fog, and especially one of the spirits, how he has those creepy red eyes that just really does set this creepy factor to the film. But one thing I want to say about this film that's always been kind of a problem for me, it's not a huge negative, but this is something that just kind of I want to talk about and discuss, because this is like my main problem with a lot of John Carpenter's early works is the dialogue. And I think that's the weakest thing about John Carpenter's Halloween and also The Fog when it comes to these very two early entries in his catalogs. The dialogue and the actual writing, I think, is the weakest elements of these films. It's not like a serious knock on the film. Like I said, I can still watch this film and enjoy it. It's just that I feel is the weakest part of this film is the actual written dialogue. But I love the actors. Like, I think Jamie Lee Curtis does a good job being a different character. She's very different from Laurie Strode, completely different type of character in this film, and it's really cool to see her act alongside her mom, Janet Leigh. So having the mother and daughter act in the same film, there's a few scenes they actually got to shoot together too as well, so that's really fun. And when it comes to John Carpenter, you can tell he likes working with his friends, working with actors that he's familiar with and stuff, and actually carrying them along into his projects. So I think that's a really cool thing too, is by the time you see this film, you could already see John Carpenter really nailing down a style and what he wants to bring to his films. And he's definitely one of those guys who's more simple in shooting. It's not going to be technically amazing, or he's not going to break the walls down with some new technique of shooting. That's not what John Carpenter does. He just does very simple stories, but he executes them well and professionally and has an amazing score. Like, pretty much all of his movies have amazing music, and that's, I think, where John Carpenter really shines, is his skills as a composer. And you can easily tell that when you watch this film and you hear the score, because this is a very haunting score in my opinion. Another mixed and negative when it comes to this film for me is that I really do feel like when it comes to the third act, there are moments in this film where it just loses me. And I know that sounds kind of stupid, like, because this is a really good film. I'm not like saying it's not a good film. It's just there are parts when we get to the third act where it kind of loses me. This is one of those films for like the first act and the second act when it's more of the mystery and before all our characters are really converging, because that's what happens in the third act is we have like, a lot of our different characters that are finding out different things or learning stuff or separate at first. They start to come together in the third act and they all kind of work together. That's when the movie actually starts to lose me a bit, and I don't know why. It's always been that way ever since I've seen this film. Like, it's just really always been that way ever since I was a teenager and I saw this film. I want to say the first time I saw this, I was probably like 10 or 12 the first time I saw this film back in the day. This is still a really good, creepy film by John Carpenter that has good music, great atmosphere, and it's definitely cool to see how John Carpenter's, honing his style and seeing what he loves to bring to the screen. So John Carpenter's The Fog, I highly recommend. This is the perfect film to watch on a spooky, dark night, maybe when it's a little cloudy outside or a little rainy, and you're at your house by yourself or maybe with your loved one or some friends. Sit down and pop this movie on. It's the perfect kind of mood for that time. And in my book, John Carpenter's The Fog is going to get a 7.5 out of 10. Still a very solid rating. Like I said, this is just one that I've never been hugely attached to in his catalog of films. I do enjoy it, but it's not, like I said, one of my top dog favorite John Carpenter films to return to. But a very solid one that I recommend you watch. And I hope you all are enjoying this review series of John Carpenter films. Pretty soon we're going to be talking about some films of his that were first-time watches for me that I'd never seen before. Pretty much all his catalog I've seen before. I told you that when we started this review series, but when it comes to The Ward and Starman, those were both first-time watches for me, and pretty soon those reviews are going to be up on the channel, so I hope you all are excited for that. And of course, once we're done reviewing some of these films, we're going to put out a master ranking of all of John Carpenter's films, and you're going to hear my thoughts. So be sure you like, share, subscribe, have that notification bell poked so you're notified anytime I drop a video, but most importantly, y'all know what's up. Have a safe and happy day. Peace out.